Welcome to Quiet Courage, the podcast for anybody ready to show up and be seen. I'm Keisha, and here we explore self-worth, courage, and personal growth with action steps, personal stories, and encouragement to help you claim your power and live confidently. Remembering your worth isn't something you have to earn. Here, we practice living in it every day. So let's take small, brave steps together and start building the lives we've been dreaming of. Have you ever been knocked down so hard that you didn't even know which way was up? But somewhere deep inside of you, you know that you weren't done yet. That quiet inner voice telling you, I will rise again. Even if I don't know what to do, I'm gonna get up. Maybe life has blindsided you. Maybe you feel stuck in a version of yourself that you didn't choose. And maybe you've believed that your story is fixed and that the circumstances you were born into or your choices define the rest of your life. I want to tell you today that your story isn't fixed. Your identity can evolve and you can choose to change the trajectory of your life at any point. And the choices that change your life don't always have to be big, dramatic decisions. They can be quiet. Even small, quiet decisions can change your life. For me, one of those moments came out of nowhere. It was an experience that I had never expected to happen. Something that I would never had put myself into that situation. So I didn't even think to prepare for it. And then someone else made a choice that completely blindsided me, right? So I was dealing with a betrayal of trust and a financial betrayal. And I remember the grief of losing that trust in someone I deeply relied on. On top of that, a huge financial burden because of someone else's choices. So I was stunned. I didn't even know how to stand in that moment, and I didn't know what to do next. And everything felt like it was happening at once. It just felt like the ground disappeared underneath me. And for like a week, I was just in mourning and like processing what happened and trying to understand and like trying to figure out where I am now. Like, what does this mean for me? What does life look like now? Right? And how do I stand back up? And I really didn't have any answer at that time when I was deep in mourning. The choice that I made was not a loud one. It wasn't something that I announced to the world, or in fact, it actually isn't something that I've told anyone yet. You'll all be the first to know. It was a quiet choice in my heart. And the choice was, this will be part of my story. And what I meant by that was someday I'm going to stand on a stage and I'm going to tell this story. I'm going to speak to women who are in the exact same position I am in right now, women who feel blindsided, knocked down, and uncertain. And I didn't have the answers then. And I didn't know how I was going to get through it. I didn't know what tomorrow was going to look like, but I knew one thing. With all of my being, that God was going to use this for good and that I was going to grow through it. I was going to become stronger, and I chose to flourish, and I chose not to lie down and stay defeated. I didn't know the next steps, but I chose the direction that I was going to move in. And maybe you've caught yourself thinking the same thing. I don't know what to do yet, but I refuse to let this define me. Maybe you've been in a place where life has knocked you down, and yet a quiet inner voice has kept telling you to get back up. Right? And so what's interesting is this wasn't the first time being challenged. My identity has been slowly shaped over years. It was like a slow evolution of little choice after little choice after little choice, right? I was shy, I was quiet, I was a wallflower. I didn't seek the spotlight. I needed support of friends around me to feel safe. And yet life was constantly pushing me into situations where I had to grow to survive and learn the skills that I didn't have. So as I learned those skills I needed like conversation and friendship and navigating new cities and stages of life and marriage and slowly through those processes, my mindset started to shift. And I just kind of knew the direction. Like I was reaching for more and I was reaching for better, and I didn't know exactly what that looked like, but that's what I wanted, and that was the direction that I chose to go in. And you can do the same thing, even if like life feels messy and you're navigating a new season of life and you're figuring out marriage and you're figuring out how to raise babies and you're figuring out a new work situation. We can get into times of life where life feels really messy. And sometimes life feels like things can't change because like we're so overwhelmed. We don't have the energy to make these huge shifts. Your small choices, that small one next step, the small decisions that feel like they don't matter can have a huge compounding effect in your life. And so as I started traveling down that journey, I had another revelation. The people that I looked up to who seemed confident and successful and were like doing big things, I started hanging out with them more. And as I hung out with them more and got to understand how they think, how they work, I realized that they were just people, right? They didn't have a secret like magic or special tricks. They just kept showing up. They kept taking action. They kept using their stories, their struggles, and their experiences to grow and to serve others. And what I realized is if they can do it, that I can do it. And that you don't need to be someone super special to change the trajectory of your life and to have huge impact and to create a life that you love. You don't need to be a millionaire. You don't need to be famous. You don't need to be this girl that you know that seems to have it all together to create a life that you love. You can do that right now, right as you are. And when I realized this, that, oh, these people that are doing amazing things, they're just like me. They're people. Like they're not special. They're just people. And I realized that if they can do it, I can do this too. And that was one of the turning points for my identity shift, is where I began to consciously reshape who I was, one quiet choice at a time. And maybe you felt that way too, watching others and wondering, how do they do it? Maybe you thought like, I'm not like them and I'll never be able to show up the way they do. Like that girl down the street, she has it all together. She's always in the cutest outfit. Her kids behave. She's always on time. Like there's no way I can measure up. But what if they're just people? What if the same courage, the resilience, and the consistency that built them into who they are is already inside of you? What if you simply need to start making the small, consistent choices, the quiet decisions that move you in the direction of your new identity? So here's the key lesson that I want to share is you don't have to make these huge decisions to change your life. Sometimes the most meaningful choices are quiet, internal, and invisible to the outside world. Decisions like, I'm going to get up today, even if it's messy. The decision, I'm going to take care of my health and take the next step. A decision to practice being brave, even in one conversation. The decision to refuse to let circumstances define you and continue to rise above. Over time, these small choices will accumulate. They shift your identity. They reshape your story. They reshape the thoughts that you think about yourself and how attainable things seem. Eventually, you start to see yourself differently, stronger, braver, and more capable and more resilient. And here's the thing I want you to remember. We're not doing this alone, right? Here, we know that courage is the first step to confidence, and together we're practicing showing up and taking these brave steps and building our confidence every day. And so those decisions that you're making, even those small internal decisions that this will not define me, I will share my story one day, like I'm going to be a conqueror, I'm going to find the next step, I'm going to keep going. These decisions are building your confidence, right? Because we're learning and we're growing and we're showing up for ourselves every day. So here's my challenge for you. I would like you to make a quiet internal choice. If you feel like life has been knocking you down lately, if you feel like you don't know what way is up and you don't know the next step, make the choice. I will rise again. Even if I don't know this next step, I will rise. Right? Or you could pick one small external action to move you forward today. It could be something as simple as writing a goal or making a phone call, or taking a tiny step towards your health, your finances, or your relationships. One small step to move you forward. If you know that your life is not where you want it to be, you could also just take some time to reflect and say, what am I believing that's holding me back and that's keeping me stuck? And how could I see this belief differently? And maybe, just maybe, the very challenges you're faced with are what you're going to use to help others. So keep that into perspective too. The skills that you learn when life gets hard and when you have to adapt to new situations are things that build your resilience and your growth. And they're also tools that you can now share with someone else who was in a situation like you were. You don't have to stay in the same story. You don't have to stay in the same version of yourself, and you can rewrite your story. You can rewrite your life one quiet decision at a time. So take those small steps a day, even if it's invisible and nobody else knows. Make the choice inside yourself to rise, to grow, and to move forward with the life that you were meant to live. As always, I see you, I believe in you, and I'm cheering you on every step of the way. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Quiet Courage. Remember, courage is the first step to confidence, and together we practice showing up, taking brave steps, and building that confidence every day. If this episode encouraged you, I'd be so thankful if you'd share with a friend. Keep taking those small steps, and I'll see you on the next episode.